Javier. Javi, would you pronounce your last name for us?
Ameijeiras.
Thank you.
Javier Ameijeiras.
So Javier was born and raised in Miami, Florida, where he attended New World School for the Arts. He was an illustration major at MICA, was heavily involved in campus life, filling leadership roles as a program manager for student activities, was a tour guide for admission. 2 months after he graduated in '05, Javier was hired as a concept illustrator for Step Up at Summit Entertainment Film. He began his career in the entertainment industry. Since '05, he's worked on over 20 productions across film and television, including The Fighter, Doubt, Boardwalk Empire, Bored to Death, Mildred Pierce, and Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, and a lot more in between that. 27 Dresses, Confessions of a Shopaholic. He has contributed to 2 Emmy Award-winning art departments and 2 Best Picture Oscar-nominated films. Currently living in New York, Javier is working on creating life in 1895 for ABC's new series, The Gilded Lilies, where his work as assistant art director and illustrator will help define the series sets, special effects, shots, and visual vocabulary. And I'm going to let Javier talk a little bit about himself and his work.
Sure. So I am an assistant art director in film and TV, and it's a very general title, because although I'm technically an assistant art director, what the assistant art director category in New York means union-wise is more drafting and technically developing sets, but I snuck in as a concept illustrator, but I also do prop design, I do storyboarding, and I'm just really there as a right-hand man to the designer, whom is using me to help them define what the world looks like. So we literally go through research and reference, and we're putting together concept boards and ultimately getting to an image that tells a story that we're trying to tell through our movie. But I'm providing the visual. So one of the things that's made me, I think, fairly successful in New York is that I pretty much do a full spectrum of things, and I'm not limited to a medium or a style. Sometimes I do paper on pencil, sometimes I scan that in and I add some tonality to it. Sometimes I do full color, sometimes I take a photograph, print it, draw on top of it, right in a meeting for the director. And our goal is really to get approval on things. And however we get that approval, that is how that's how I approach the job. So I like I said, I do concept design, I do storyboarding, I do prop design, I do visual effects shots, so they're getting more and more digitally oriented, and it's pretty much what I do in a nutshell. It's a condensed version.
So Justin Winslow.
Hey. Hello, everybody.
Was born in Kansas, yet raised in Atlanta, Georgia. Justin left the South to attend MICA for BFA in illustration. Once at MICA, he also became interested in design and video, and even made a video piece about not affording rent. After graduation in 1998, woohoo, that was my year too, by the way, he headed back to Atlanta and secured a position at Primal Screen Animation Studio, where he worked for the next 5 years. There he designed countless logos, storyboards, motion graphics, identity pages for PBS Kids, Nickelodeon, Ameijeiras, Cartoon Network, HGTV, and Animal Planet. He's also won a contest to design El Gato.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
For HBO Family. The dog, the cat, went on to be a seriously, ridiculously silly and popular series of animated educational shorts that teach Spanish and English to kids. After his stint at Primal Screen, Justin moved to New York City to freelance among the various networks located there. Since his arrival, he has worked at Curious Pictures, Edgeworks, Nitrous, Nickelodeon, actually worked with Chris a little bit, and has designed numerous elements for children's shows. Currently, Justin has become interested in online games and social networks and has broadened his scope to include designing those as well. You can see his new work on gprops.com. And I'm going to play a reel of Justin's work. to New York City to attend Atlantic Theater Conservatory program. 2 weeks later, she quit the conservatory to focus her energy on long-form improvisation at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater. Since 2006, Abbi has performed in countless improv and sketch shows all over New York City, and her solo show, Welcome to Camp, ran at UCB in 2011. She created Broad City, the web series with Alana Glazer in 2009. 2.5 years and 35 episodes later, Broad City is currently in development with FX. Besides writing and acting, Abbi's illustrations can be seen as part of the AOL Artist campaign, and she has 2 coloring books coming out in the spring of 2013 with Chronicles Books. Let me show you some of Abbi's work.
Yeah. You got
concentration. Upon graduation, Chris went directly on to pursue Master of Science graduate degree in post-production and motion graphics at New York University's Center for Advanced Digital Applications, the fall of 2002. Since achieving his MS degree, Chris has been working for Nickelodeon as an animator designer for Nickelodeon's preschool brand Creative. In 2009, he was appointed director of animation. And in 2010, Chris was nominated for an Emmy for Outstanding Promotional Announcement for his work in Junior IDs. The next year, he was also not only nominated, but awarded an Emmy for Bubble Guppy's launch trailer. In addition to his position at Nickelodeon, Chris also teaches part-time as an adjunct professor at Ameijeiras. Is it CADA?
Mm-hmm.
CADA. So, last one.
You're watching Super Ninjas. We'll be right back. On Nick. Now back to Victorious. On Nick. You know what's in the house, but you won't believe what's beneath it. House Enemies returns with a brand new season this January. Only on Nick. Enter the online world of Monkey Quest. Create your warrior and choose your weapon. Then battle deadly creatures. It's more than just an online game. It's Monkey Quest. Warrior for you today at monkeyquest.com and get exclusive Dragon Bombs for a limited time only. Rated E for everyone.
In books, anything can happen. Why, there's nothing too absurd. Spoons can walk. Trees can talk.
I'm fine.
How are you? A moose can be friends with a bird. Books can make you giggle, scary books can make you wriggle, mysteries can get so creepy, bedtime stories are too sleepy. Some books are hard that can't deter you. Some books seem like they're written right for you. Just put a book down in your lap and wondrous things will start to happen. Turn the pages and you'll see anything's possible in a story. I love to dive into a good book. A man can chase a wily whale, the dog can grow a bunny tail, a witch can do a world of good, and anything can happen in the woods. A wolf can wear a granny's clothes, a girl can blow a dragon's nose, a dinosaur can feed a city, a guy can go from dull to witty. Ha! What is antlers that makes you itch? A mosquito! Just put a book down in your lap and wondrous things will start to happen. Turn the pages and my friends, you'll never guess how this one ends. It ends like this. The end.
So, these guys are amazing. Please ask them whatever you would like to know, and maybe we can just even start the conversation with each of you telling a little bit about how you made the transition from MICA into your first job, your first gig, your first client, whatever that might be. Anybody want to start?
I'll start. So I was very fortunate in my transition because it was made through a contact here at MICA who knew somebody at the Maryland Film Commission, and they simply put me in contact with the right person, a production designer who was looking for an illustrator. And I had no idea that that's what I wanted to do, but I had graduated and I was in limbo and I didn't know, I was like, why not? This might be an avenue that works for me. And this production designer named Shepard Frankel, who's doing all sorts of crazy great things now, interviewed me and then sent me off, and I didn't hear from him for about 2 months, and then he called me back and he said we'd like the job, and I took it. I started, and that led me to my career. And it's not that simple or that easy or that clean, but that's the basic gist of how it all started. It took me about 2.5 solid years in New York trying to enter the film industry until I was actually able to join the United Scenic Artists, which is what has solidified my place in the New York filmmaking world. Because as a union member, you're protected, and all these big films that come to New York have lots of union rules. And as a union member, I'm up for the job, or I can apply for the job because of I fit what the union rules regulate. So that's a very, very quick, condensed version of how I transformed from MICA to the real world. So it was about a 2.5 year process of trying. And now I'm doing it all the time, and I'm very, very grateful for it. I'm tired, but very, very grateful for it.
I think mine would be a little different than that.
Yeah.
It took me a while. I think it would be, only in the past year have I felt comfortable telling people that I am a legitimate writer, actor. Because before it just felt like I was doing these tiny little shows in New York. But so my transfer into the real world was I had a lot of sort of crappy day jobs while I performed at night and wrote at night. But I think I'm so happy that I had to do that, because for me, I get to use all that as material. And I feel like, if I had found something right away, I probably wouldn't have anything to comment on. So it's good to tread a little bit and figure it out. But yeah, I was in New York as well, sort of trying to figure stuff out for a little. That was
What year did you graduate in?
2006.
2006. Just trying to think how long the journey was. But
yes.
Abby's also a ridiculously talented illustrator.
All right.
No,
That's
it's
not
true.
what this pen was about. Look me this side. It's
Okay.
not illustration.
I just wanted to put that out there. I'm a big fan.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Cool. I'm the oldest of the bunch here. I graduated in '98. That's quite a while now ago. You guys are so much better equipped, I think, coming out of MICA with all the stuff they're offering now compared to what they offered when I came out. So that's you guys have a leg up for that already. And for me, I was an illustration major, but I dipped into graphic design a lot, and they didn't even have a film major at that time here in MICA. So I kind of fell into animation kind of accidentally, because I'd taken a couple of video classes, and then I always drew and designed, and it wasn't until moving back to Atlanta that I landed a position at a studio that did animated commercials. But honestly, coming out of school here at MICA, it was tough. There was a couple of transition years. So, I mean, if you guys are freaking out, I don't know how you guys feel. Are you all confident, or are you all freaking out? What the heck I'm gonna do when I leave here? I mean, because it's a really nice bubble, the college experience. But then when you're out in the real world, it's okay, you have to make it work on your own, and it's a challenge. And there's definitely a couple of years of floundering and everything like that, but just make as many connections as you can. And if I could go back and give myself advice, I would tell myself to just value every connection possible that you make, because you don't want to burn any bridges. You always want to keep those doors open, because it could lead to a studio job, moving to New York, who knows? So that's my experience.
But I agree with the last thing you said, because we know each other from Nickelodeon.
Yeah, I freelanced at Nickelodeon for a while.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
You never know who you're going to run into again. But when I was at MICA, this building didn't exist, and
Same here, yeah.
general fine arts major, and just did animation on my own, video work on my own, because it was a way I could tell a story by myself. Just me working on it, and So I graduated with general fine arts major, and I said like, well, what am I gonna do now? Grad school, and just like put it on my tab, you know, just keep in school for a little bit. So I just got through grad school like super quick. I made a lot of connections there, and being in New York and like the grad school experience at CADA was with people that are already working professionally and trying to like brush up. So it was like the youngest type of person there. And I got a freelance job from someone I knew, and then I got a job, a staff job at SG's making emoticons for like IMs. It was called Smiley Central, so it's all these smiley faces that like do things. You know, they have like little. It's like a 16 kilobyte story of smiley faces like making up and breaking up and like going on action adventure scenes, and it's just little tidbits. I did that for a couple of months until I got offered a job at Nick Jr., which at that point there was like no department. I was like one of 5 people in the entire department. So I got in really luckily to a awesome place that has like a lot of equity in its brand and in its characters and like a giant audience. So I've been there since, and you know, worked within the system of Nickelodeon and the corporate structure to become a director of animation for the department and build a department around animation and promotional work and commercial work and branding. And worked with a lot of people and a lot of different types of artists and writers and producers and directors, and it's good. It's just a big collaborative environment which you have here, and you might not even know it. You might be working in silos on your own, but you probably should think about working with each other a little bit more and working on projects that that you could be interested in and feed off of each other. Because from my experience, it's like it's not an on your own thing. You know, you get chosen because of your style and your like sensibilities and the things that you bring to the table, and then you have to work with other people to really make it shine, and everybody gets the credit at the end, which is good. So it's a bigger process, and it's a better product and result at the end for it.
Yeah, actually, just to comment on that, I feel like after college, I was fortunate enough to find like this community in New York of people that were doing comedy, but like also people that love to do behind the scenes stuff. And I think if I were to give advice too, I didn't really get to take, or I didn't take advantage of that at MICA. I didn't really find like a community of people, or my mentality was sort of like, I knew I was interested in comedy. I'm going to wait till after I graduate to do that for some reason. And I think that there's so much here, especially in like, if you are interested in that type of stuff in the video department, there's like people, I would imagine, want to do all aspects of it. People want to work behind the scenes. People are interested in sound, and there's people that want to do animation that can do it like, in the front of your video or whatever it is. And it's so important. Like everything that I've done that's ever been like had any sort of success has been because there's like a community of people around it that have been wanting and willing to work on it with us and add their voice. And that's just something that I'm finding throughout this whole process, that it like that doesn't end. It only involves like it's only collaborative, which is so cool. But it's something I definitely didn't do here that I wish I did.
Yeah, every time I see an award ceremony, I think I see that you see that one person getting the award, but there really is so many people behind that project, whether it's an Emmy or an Oscar or anything.
They always forget somebody.
You just can't. You have hundreds of people to
thank somebody.
For me, I'm finding that I'm in a position where I had a really great network at MICA, but I went off in a career that I didn't expect to, and I kind of got sucked into their world, the world of filmmaking and production design. And now I'm finding that I'm starting to get to the point in my career where I'm being asked, so instead of being told what the idea is and illustrating it, I'm finding myself in the position where they're asking me, what should the idea be, and who should we use to achieve it? So I'm starting to use my little MICA network to bring people into projects and say, Do you need an illustrative font? Well, I know someone who does it really well. You need a designer? I know someone who does that really, really well. You need a stylist? I have a friend that does that. Would this person work? So it's interesting for me. For 7 years, I've been I've been in this business, and only now is when I'm starting to use my MICA network and trying to bring them in and spread the love a little bit.
Yeah, that's like my sole purpose of being here, seeing what the campus is like again, but finding fresh talent and fresh ideas and people that are really like passionate about art and media and putting their work out there and working again collaboratively. So, see many of you that I've spoken before, but yeah, it's really about finding people, building a network of people to do good work, and then like securing work for you and your team and your people around you, so you can keep just snowballing it into more work and better work and bigger work and have fun doing it. Because it's like, say like, oh, is that monkey's mohawk red enough? Like it's all like silly things that we all do, or like really big fun drawings or whatever. But it's not boring. It's not at all. And then you just keep like rolling it up and get the next one and keep doing more of it. So partnerships it's important.
Yeah, that's true. You'll probably be working with somebody from MICA in your future, in some way, collaborating, or you hire them, or they hire you, or they connect you to a job, or you do that for them. So contacts are very important, definitely.
So any of you have questions that you'd like to ask panelists?
Yeah, definitely. What do you guys think is the best way to get your work out there in front of the eyes of people who are in a position that are here?
I have a friend who is a designer in New York, and he was just talking about this, and he was like, should I put my whole portfolio on an iPad and just like take an iPad and present the iPad, to like, places to studios? And he actually ended up doing that. And to me, that sounded like a very easy, portable way to do it, other than having a website. A web presence is always important. I know a lot of like animators and broadcast designers won't even like talk to you unless you have a web presence, right?
Yeah, the web is like, probably the easiest, most like widely used way to get that out there. I don't like want to see mail DVDs or anything.
Are there like sites specifically? And it's not going to be when you're on sort of like specific sites that are good to post your work on, or?
Yes, but I don't recall the name of it right now. Some of the B and like Behance.
Behance.
Yeah, Behance I guess maybe is like easy to do. There's like a lot of easy ways to do it. I bought my Flashport site up there was like $40, and it's a template, and then I plug in my images in there and type it up, and then I pop it up there, and it's easy. Like you can, like that's the way to do it, because you got to get the work up there. You can put it on the blog, just like scrolling past people's images is maybe all you need, or YouTube or whatever. To me, it's really your work is going to speak for yourself, and clean design on a website's good, but like, questions kind of like your work, right? And I think all you ideally would want to be doing your work, like as artists, you want to do your work, and someone is going to pay for your work, and like that's the dream, right? So maybe you're the best person to answer that, because you're like working on your own stuff. It's like it's your concept, and you're writing it and doing it. So how'd you do that?
Mine's like kind of specific to like a web series. But so mine thing really only existed on the web, except for when we would like put up live shows and screen web episodes that you could see online. But we did it before we put it online. But I would say, and this is where me having a day job that I hated really came in handy. One of my first jobs in New York was I was an assistant to these two guys who were doing SEO stuff. So search engine optimization for like a wide variety of clients. And my job was to research, like for instance, one of their clients was this this, 24/7 Americana, like, coffee table book. My job was to research all these blogs that would be interested in that book. And what I did was I sent a template out to them. I'm like, listen, we published this new book, and made it appealing to their audience and why they'd want to get a free copy and post it on their blog. So when it came time to me creating this web series with Alana Glazer, who's my writing partner, and who's like the other girl in that, we were getting ready to release this, and I was like, oh, how does stuff spread around the web? And our stuff is not viral at all. We have like a pretty small fan base for what has like happened, but it's like a good small fan base. And so what we did was we did the same thing. We made a list of what what different types of places would be interested in our stuff. So it's like two 20-something girls. We're both two Jewish girls. Sometimes we talk about dating, sometimes we talk about sex, sometimes we talk about New York. And we literally just like emailed all these blogs, made it personal, and started to get some hype going. And like in terms of web series and web content, like the bloggers like control it. That's how stuff gets like spread. And it was like really interesting how that worked. And then, that's pretty much how we got the word out. Also in New York, we did live stuff, and we always tried to be generating new content, like on a consistent basis. Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely gotten work through blogs. I've definitely gotten work through Facebook even. Like even that is a great tool for, connecting with people.
Sounds like the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But I think you're your own salesperson. I mean, you are a company, and you're representing yourself. And so at all times, you have to take that into consideration. And you'll meet random people in random places, whether it's a train or a flight, or here, or someone who's coming to speak in Baltimore, but actually lives in some other city, and they're in the Inner Harbor, and you happen to be in the Inner Harbor, and you have no idea where that opportunity and that connection is going to be made.
Got to be prepared.
You got to be prepared.
Like what
That's why
Oprah says.
Yeah.
Got to be prepared for an opportunity. So that iPad thing you were talking about.
Yeah.
If you met someone who could change your career and you had that portfolio,
Right.
Yeah.
It'd be right there.
It'd be
on
right
you,
there, so-
totally. I can't tell you how many times I've not had a business card on me when I
Yeah.
should have, and it's like a missed opportunity because you tell somebody your name at a party, then they're not going to remember the next day. They're going to find the business cards in their, in their pockets. So
You know what you do?
what?
You take their phone and you put it into their contacts.
Oh,
I have done
okay.
that numerous times.
Wow, that's really proactive.
You have to get to a certain level of confidence with the person, but when they say, "Oh, do you have a business card?" I'm like, "No, but can I put my information in your phone?" I've actually done that. So you can't. I'm not saying just take their phone. I'm saying if the opportunity arises and they ask you for a business card, you just say, "I don't have it with me right now, but can I put my information in your phone?"
Very strategic.
Yeah, that's good.
Other questions?
We can make some up for
Are
you.
you guys all like film, video, like animation, or just all across the board? Like, what are you guys' interests?
Illustration, pre-production.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm graphic design, so I'm actually really interested in motion graphics. So it's kind of been a transition from like the 2D heavy, even if we're dealing with like screen-based, like that's still just like web development. It's not really movement, and what I've really become interested in is like the storytelling aspect of the media. This medium.
Definitely, the more technology you can get under your belt before entering the real world is great, because I'm sure people here preach that, but things are always changing in the industry, and you have to be on the cutting edge, so to speak. So that's definitely something to take advantage of.
Yeah, that variety is really important. It's gotten me through a lot. I'm not as technically based. Whenever I touch the computer, it's either SketchUp or Photoshop, but having a variety of skills with you at all times, so you just never know who's going to ask for what, and being able to deliver instantly, it makes you reliable in their minds, And then they'll just keep contacting you, and it gets to a point where they just forget everybody else, and they only contact you because they know you've always delivered, regardless of what the project was. So you don't get niche or stuck in a niche market. You're not just the graphics guy. You're the graphics and motions guy, and then you're this other. You're fulfilling so many of their needs that they always call you. Even if you can't do it, you're in their heads that you can do it, and so therefore you'll get the call. You always get this call. And so maybe they'll offer you 10 jobs and you only turn down 2. But still, you're just in their minds as he or she can do it. So that variety of skill set is really important.
Yeah, because it's like I don't know, like a sausage grinder or something. There's like meat sausage grinder grinding it out sometimes, like in big corporations, and you just need like as many reliable people as you can to make it look good, so your boss doesn't yell. So everybody's happy with the work. Yeah, you gotta have those people. So if you're a reliable person that can do everything, and you're like cool to be around, then that's it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You gotta be able to like speak with people and like talk about your work and like take criticism, because not everything you make is gonna be good. People are gonna tell you that, and they're gonna tell you that 10 hours before it's due, and then you gotta make it good. So it's that sort of thing.
Hey, on delivering on time, what you're just talking about, how do you balance quality versus delivery on time? And is there ever an instance where you've been late on purpose because you believe you can push it to the next level? Or do you have to push and pull to make something work for the deadline? How do you justify that with your art director?
Yeah, that's tough.
It's not the second part. We just like deal with it. Like it's other business deadlines and things, and you could you don't have to make everything 3D type that takes 10 hours to render like one frame. You could do it with nice, simple typography, and just like choices. Other choices, and then I don't know, the guys at South Park, they just didn't hand stuff in until the last minute because they knew it would get mixed or something, and that was a choice they made. So, but always be on time, be early, and don't under-promise, right? You should under-promise and over-deliver. It's like the other kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So, give people more than what they expect. You'll probably be okay. But yeah, work smarter, and also depending on what it is, I don't know about you, but I gotta make 10 versions of the same thing, right? So I don't want renders to go for a week to get these 10 things out the door, and then something about it has to change, the time that the show goes on changes, and then I gotta do it all over again. So just plan ahead for anything like that to happen. And it's pipeline of events, right? So if you know what your business is, and to get from concept to completion, if you plan that in a way that's feasible and fits everybody's needs, it'll probably be.
That's an interesting question because everything in the film and television industry is so deadline oriented, and as artistic people, we kind of learn to kind of perfect our craft and pour hours into something and pour love into something and making it really special. Sometimes you have to know when to let something kind of go and say, all right, this is a job and I have to have this done by, you know what I mean? It's a lot of stuff to kind of balance, and finding your own comfort range with I guess, are you just putting something out just to get paid on deadline, or are you really trying to make it special? Finding a balance between the two is important. What do you guys say?
Balance is important, but I think at the beginning too, this is your opportunity. And I think it was brought up once before. This is your time to kind of to shine. So if you have to do a couple all-nighters. You don't want to live a lifestyle like that. I know you may not be doing that, but this is your time to really push yourself to the limits of what you think you can do and grow a lot. And you're going to be asked to do things, at least that's what I've found. You're going to be asked to do things you never thought you would end up doing or thought you were capable of doing, but you have an art director that pushes you and takes you slightly off of your balance, and they show you something that you never thought you'd see. So film and TV is madness, and I don't understand how some people do it, but it always happens. It ceases to amazes me. That day of, when the director is supposed to be at 6 o'clock in the morning, it is all somehow there. So, whether it's people making the right decisions, like Chris said, cutting a little bit over here because it's going to take a certain amount of time, it has to be delivered, because if not, there's just not delivering is not an option. So you have to make it work and make the right decisions to arrive at that place. You had a question? Oh, you had a question, yes.
Yeah, I guess this is more directed towards Abbi. I'm just curious, since you're kind of doing your own thing, but anyone else can chime in. Has your own thing kind of created revenue enough, for you to kind of live, or are you still kind of doing the thing on the side? And if so, what's that process like?
Okay, yeah, I am proud to say that I am not working a day job that I hate anymore. I quit my day job a year ago, and it's actually funny. Get out of here. Okay. Just stay there. That's weird. So it's actually funny. We're talking about MICA connections. So about 2 years ago, I started doing illustration work for AOL about 2 years ago through my friend Michael Chancho, who was a design major here. And he was branding with AOL and recommended my name as a potential illustrator. And that work sort of changed my life because I had a full-time job at the time. And this work, they commissioned 3 pieces from me, and they just bought them outright. And it was the first time I'd ever sold my artwork in this way to a corporate place, and it was awesome. I recommend doing that sometime. And so I was still working this job, and I saved that money that I made doing this illustration stuff. And it got to a point last year where we were finishing up shooting the 2nd season of our web series. And I was just sort of excuse my language, I was just fuck it, I'm quitting. And this is not a good time to be quitting a job. But I was I know this is going to work out. I have all this money saved. And I'm just I'm gonna have to make it work. So I was able to quit, and I used that money to live off for a little while, and then last summer things just sort of progressed with. Basically, we finished up our web series, and we decided we were going to go out to LA and pitch it as a show, and we basically just asked, Amy Poehler was in the web series. We basically just asked her if she would ever consider being an executive producer. And she was yeah, and that was another sort of game changer for us. Also a game changer when you step into a pitch room, having someone like that is a big change. And so once the pitch process was through, we sold the script to FX. So right now we basically we handed in the script last week, actually, so we're being paid to write the script. So it's awesome. So I was able to use the illustration money when I needed it, and now I'm being paid to write the script. So it's possible.
I have a very random question that has nothing to do with this, but do you, just because I'm in that world, are you an employee of FX right
Yeah.
now? Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's cool. They take taxes out, which is nice. Being a freelancer, they don't take taxes out of your check most of the time.
Yeah.
And then you're screwed right about now when tax season comes around, because I learned that last year. But yeah, so I'm an employee of them, which is cool.
Yeah, you
If that
should
answers
all
your
get up on the business end of taxes and letterheads and boilerplate pieces of information you got to send out, and your billing practices and keeping track of it. Lucky enough for me, Viacom takes out taxes for me and does all that stuff. It's a big corporate environment, but I have an LLC, and I have to do my own taxes and other things for the business. But you know, you could like, it's your business, and you got to make it grow. And you taking some chunk of money you've made and putting it into that is like the way to do it. And it just like hopefully will become successful.
Yeah, there's a definitely like, you gotta be a little risky, I think, in the film, TV realm, I think.
Yeah. I think you also have to figure out, everything's being remade and reinterpreted in every way possible, and you just really have to push yourself to think, how do you do it differently? They've done 1 million hospitals, how are you gonna make this one different? This story has already been told, how do you tell it differently?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of something that I try to think of with every project. It's how it's been done, and it's really difficult to find something that's completely new. So how do you take what you've been given and make it different?
Yeah.
Like, why is Rizzoli and Isles so good? It's a cop show. 2 girl cops. But I love it.
Is it really good?
I like it.
I gotta check it
really
out.
Good. Yeah. And then Fairly Legal. It's like another one. It's like another lawyer show, but she's a mediator, and she's dealing with the clients, and it's like the same show, but I watch it. They're good shows.
Lady cops.
Yeah, lady-
I think that might be it.
One's tomboyish and one's trendy, and they're best friends.
That's perfect.
Yeah, there you go. Done.
More questions?
I'm curious with those of you who have lived the freelance lifestyle versus working for a company, like in kind of the process and challenges of those, and maybe like how did you get to the being completely freelance? Maybe even Justin, like maybe you worked for a company and then went on to work as a freelance person. How did you kind of take the training wheels off and have enough clients to support you?
Yeah, it definitely took a while. Definitely. I mean, I didn't start freelancing until, I guess, 5 years ago. And so I had worked many years before that, just building up connections and clients, and got to a point where somehow work just kind of kept coming in on the side, and I didn't have time to do it all because of my day job. And I was like, I'd rather be doing this work than the day job. So it's kind of a leap of faith. You kind of like, it's good to have a little nest egg built up. But, it's all based on personality. Some people do very well working for a company where taxes are taken out. You have your health insurance. You don't have to bother with all of that. And that's a very comfortable situation. And then, if you wanted to kind of flit around and try different things, the freelance lifestyle might be better suited for you. But it's a lot more work, just as far as taxes goes. You have to be kind of your own bookkeeper in a way. And I don't know about you guys, but like, that's not my strong point. So I had to learn how to like keep a lot organized. So there's pros and cons to both. I hate to say that. It's not like one's better than the other. It's just what's best for you, I guess. Does that help?
Yeah.
Answer the question?
It just seems that a lot of you, or most of you, are based on the West Coast and like primarily New York. Can you speak to like the competition there and as opposed to like LA? Or, I mean,
Like East Coast versus West Coast?
I just visited LA. My friend wants me to move there, and I'm like, no, I like New York. It's great.
It depends on what you want to do, right?
Yeah, it really depends on what you want to do. I mean, I will say it does help being in like the hot spots. If you're really wanting to get into film and TV, you can't go wrong with New York or LA. I mean, smaller cities are definitely building film scenes and communities that are doing things. Like Portland has Portlandia now, which is awesome, and they put it on the map sort of, and I think, and I know they filmed The Wire and some other stuff here. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't been to Baltimore recently, so I don't know what the film scene is like now here. But
I know. I just read that Philly has a big new studio, film studio. But I would say definitely I think New York and LA are like like obviously just where more the work is, and I was just in LA too, and I found in my experience that like the business side of it for me in like exactly what I do mostly happens in LA. Like all the like execs are in LA, and in terms of TV shows, maybe you guys might know more than me, but from like an actor writer point of view, it seems like there's like 80% in LA versus 20, maybe even less in New York.
The actor writer?
I mean like shows that are being produced.
I don't know what the ratio is. I just know they're dumping tons of money into New Orleans and Atlanta.
Okay.
So those are two big cities to consider. And I think
The Walking Dead.
Yeah. And actually it's all about money. The entire industry is about money and where they can make the most bang for their bucks. If coming to Baltimore is going to be cheaper for them for some particular reason, they'll come here if there's a tax incentive. But they'll go anywhere for the tax break, because they always, like Abby's saying, they always start and end in LA. That's home for all of them. But for some particular reason, they might branch out to other cities.
And like Vancouver too is big.
Canada.
Yeah.
So were you on the set of Boardwalk Empire, like that whole big?
I was not. In Greenpoint, I was actually hired for that to do the conceptual work before the series started. So as they were pitching it to HBO is when I got hired.
That party scene was that, right?
Well, it wasn't. It ended up not being that, but that's from the pilot.
I recognize the like building with the with like the balconies with people celebrating. Yeah.
That's what happens when you do what I do, I guess. Sometimes sometimes it's a little surreal, because you'll especially on the stuff I did for Tower Heist. We built SketchUp models. They were really particular about making sure that all the renderings were to scale according to what they would see when they arrived on set. And it's a lot of big producers with a lot of fancy titles and fancy cars, and they just wanted to make sure that everything was tight. So my illustrations had to be really, really precise. And when I walked into the set, I was like, "Well, this is eerie." I've been staring at a screen for months, and now you guys built a physical environment that's identical to it.
That's awesome.
And it's pretty crazy.
That's very cool. Cool job.
Yeah, it's all right.
It's cool. It's cool. So there are more shows in New York.
We should just ask each other questions.
Well, we can.
I think that's what's happening.
There's 27 TV shows in New York City right now.
Because a lot of my friends are like, no, all the shows are done in LA, and like it's more advertising in New York. But that's not necessarily true. There's a lot of shows in New York.
There's a lot of shows, and with that comes like the whole team that they need. For example, I know when we did Bored to Death, they were going to do the opening video sequence, or whatever it's called, the title sequence.
Love that.
They were doing it in LA, but they ended up doing it in New York because that's where the team was for the production of it. So that if a movie or production goes somewhere, they really do absorb the talent.
There's
from that area.
actually like a clause in New York. If you do your production in New York, you have to do 20% of your post-production there as well. So that means sound jobs, animation jobs, design jobs, editing. So there's like, and I think all these states build in incentives. Like you said, Atlanta, like every reality show on VH1 is like down in Atlanta now. And you see like this little peach logo and a thing, and it's like a logo for the state of Atlanta to come film in Atlanta. So yeah, there's lots of incentives for that. But if you're good enough and like you have enough clients, or like one big client, you could be anywhere. I mean, like we have people not in the state that we use, and we use them a lot. So, it's just like, it's all about you and like who you know and how much you could do.
That's very true. I do feel like though it takes time to kind of build up that name to where they come to you, because otherwise I think it's sort of like you need to go to them. You need to kind of be around where all this stuff is being made. But as you develop your career and hopefully your reputation doing what you do, you can work from anywhere, which is cool nowadays.
How hard is it to get into the union?
I found it to be about as difficult and as complicated as getting into college, which having been near like I had just graduated 2 years after, I got in 3 years after I graduated, so it was like fresh in my mind, I knew the process, it wasn't a big deal. But the people, they'll say it's very difficult, it's very labor-some. The hardest part is you have to get 3 people that are in the union to recommend you, and then, and vouch for you. And you basically ask for the recommendation, but you don't get that letter back. They have to mail it in directly, so you really have to stay on top of them and say, did you send it? So I asked a lot of people, and so on my interview they said, you got double the amount of recommendation letters that you need, then you need it, and that kind of solidified. I knew I was going to get in, but it's like anything. You prepare a strong portfolio, you present yourself well when you do the interview. I mean, I would say if you're here at MICA, you got a good chance if you just apply yourself and have a focused portfolio. And it depends what you want to go in for, because all the categories are different, whether it's for set design, assistant art directing. Everybody, it's got different categories. Just to figure out what you want to do and do it. And it costs a lot of money, but I'll tell you this, it's totally worth it. Definitely is worth it. I mean, it's a huge shock to your system, but then once you're in and you start working and you're like, and you start seeing that money slowly come back to you, it's definitely worth it. And at least since I'm a union member, I'm respected and I'm well taken care of, because that's what the union's kind of there to protect you. And if no one can say we want to pay you less, because say no, this is what they're making and that's it. So you never have to fight for your paycheck or for your rate. You just walk in and say, I'm union, and they'll say, okay, this is your rate.
Hi, I'm a graphic designer and illustrator, and I become very interested in animation recently, but I only have 1 more year here, so I find it's kind of difficult to get all the techniques about animation and do my own work. And since, as you mentioned before, animation is about collaboration. You need so many people to work on different parts. So, do you think I should concentrate more on my illustration work, or I should work hard to know more about the software techniques and to prepare my portfolio?
What kind of illustration do you want to do? What's the ultimate goal? Like, when you graduate MICA, what would be the dream job?
I'm not so sure, but I'm in the graduate school, so it's kind of reframing everything. And so I'm really interested in the advertisement field, like the short animation, you know what I mean?
I just think,
communication design.
I just think you just have. It's a difficult question to answer, and you guys should definitely give your 2 cents on it.
I think it's just learn After Effects, because I'm sure all of you know Photoshop and Illustrator. After Effects is the same thing plus a timeline. Yeah. So if you could make some amount of layers in Photoshop, and you could take the Move tool and move it around and imagine how that's going to work, it's just you do that in After Effects, and then you're done. You got an animation. Yeah, and it's just you. You don't need a whole big team, and you could design it in After Effects. You like fonts and typing things out, you just type it in After Effects, and you can move it around, and it's got so many tools to do all sorts of stuff. You could learn that in the next year and be set.
Oh yeah, totally.
Maybe just show some simple ideas about how animate them, other than do a perfect animation.
Just maybe show some examples of maybe some, logos that sort of resolve on screen, that act as a show opener or something. Invent some pieces, kind of give yourself maybe those assignments, or maybe if you have an animation class, they would give you an assignment like that you would have a couple pieces for your portfolio. But I'd definitely say animation, because you take away the element of time, and it's really just good illustration. It's just moving, or good graphic design, and it's just moving. So that will focus, your good design and illustration skills you've gained, and make the move, which is a plus, I think.
Right. And it's what do you want to do? Do you want to do a matte painting, a beautiful painting, and just have it come to life by moving clouds, or having a little smoke or a camera move, or
Illustrator work done by illustrators, so it's
flat graphic? Yeah, learn After Effects, and you'll be okay.
if you've designed a logo in a class, maybe do a small piece as if the logo's animating on screen, you know, as like presenting a show or a product. I think people definitely get excited by animation. They get all like crazy. So if they see something move, they're like, ooh, wow, cool. It's just, you know.
So I was also wondering, illustrator or graphic designer work with a team for an advertisement. How they collaborate together? Like, will there be any technician, especially do After Effects work for you or something?
I will say this: the people who get the jobs in New York are the people who can already design, and they can even draw maybe too, and they have all the technical skills as well. People just prefer that. You know, if you can do a little bit of everything, they do like that.
But
when you say sort of?
Yeah, like, I mean, that's the majority of it. Like, if you were to say you just want to be working all the time and you could do all that stuff and you're a generalist, that's great. But I work with people who, like, can't do anything other than Illustrator or, like, fine art, and we make it work by, like, talking to them about what the project's about and how they go about making it, and, you know, just making it move. There's this artist, Laurie Rosenwald. She does, like, she did some Target ads, like, 2 years ago, and my boss just, like, loves her work because she's like, collage-y and crayons and, like, really kind of wacky stuff. And, you know, she'd give us files that were, like, just one image, and we'd have to cut it up and make it move. But, like, her job was to make it look good, and our job was to make it move. So, you know, you could, if you want to focus on not animation, then just be the best designer you can and know what animators need and build it in a certain way where they could use it.
No, but I was just worried if I only knew how to make the image, how can I prove people that I can be the one?
You got another year here, right? One more? Learn animation. Okay.
Other questions?
When Abbi, so did you use your illustration, I guess, nest egg to fund your web series?
Not really. Like, I used the nest egg. I like that we're all calling it that. Only really in the past year after I quit my job. So to fund the web series, I worked at a bakery in the city giving out pastries and coffee. And then I worked at this company called Life Booker, which is like a Groupon in New York, and I sold like salon deals. So no, I did not use any of my technical skills to fund the web series. Yeah.
Did you have your own equipment, or how did that?
So that's where like the community and the networking comes into play. So basically, when we decided we were going, I can't handle this. What is going on?
It's weird.
So
it's
weird.
like dead.
Oh, jeez.
It's dying or something.
It's done.
When we started to make it, there's like a forum for like the improv community in New York, and I checked this like online forum, and people post that they do video work, and I minored in video, but I knew even when I was here, I was like, I don't know how to edit, you know, I just can't, and it was just like, I love sitting with someone, but like the technical side is just not how I like think. And so I noticed that one of my friends who took a class with me posted that they were interested in shooting and directing stuff. He had a camera, and we got a sound guy, and he ended up doing like our first 10 episodes with us, and he was sort of part of the team. So we didn't have to pay him. So we just we fed everybody really well, and we paid for, you know, props and locations. And then after we started working with other people and sort of got a little bit more organized, we paid people what we could, and we started getting more exposure, so people knew who we were, and it was all from like this community, and they just like sort of wanted to be a part of the collaborative process. So I mean, we paid the director like $100, and they were director / editor, which is like nothing, and I feel like bad about that. But we just like we couldn't pay them anymore. But it was like we made sure to make it very fun, and always like take people out for beers and stuff afterwards. But yeah, it was basically most of the episodes were shot on like a Canon 5D or 7D, which is like the best thing right now. I think that you can, like, if you're interested in making videos or films, it's like the best thing you can invest in, because there's such good still cameras, but they're also amazing video cameras. And you like, a lot of our earlier episodes were like us stealing shots in New York, because you can't just shoot everywhere. I mean, we got kicked out of a lot of places, but with a still camera, no one knows no one knows what you're doing if you're like sly about it. But yeah, we just really got people interested in like working with us, and then we would throw parties when we would release new episodes and get to like share it with them. So that's pretty much how we did that. Sorry. Alana lives in Brooklyn. I lived in Astoria, which is in Queens, another borough, New York. Good borough.
Mm-hmm.
Understated borough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure, I got a million questions. I can just keep going. I come from video games. I'm an alumni, and I'm just really excited about what you guys are doing in film. I could just keep asking questions all night. I'm starting to teach up in New York soon, and I came to MICA knowing, I had an internship when I was in 11th grade in high school at a production company, general production company. And I knew, they told me that the technology changes so fast, it's going to be really hard to learn something in school, because they're probably not going to be in the same software version that was in. So I knew I wanted to come to MICA because they had a good foundation drawing and painting program. I figured like, well, I can learn foundation here and take that into any song. And that was true. That was exactly true. When I got into video games, they taught me more 3D Max techniques on the job than I would have ever learned in school. But I want to hear from you guys, what do you think was valuable that you learned at MICA, and what's really important to absorb while you're here? You mentioned collaboration before. That's something you can't get anywhere else. But what are some other things that you learned here, or that you could learn as a student today, that will help you learn the software faster or adapt when you get into the field?
Well, I'll just, the one class I'm always bringing up, and I think you were actually in that class, was Susan Ellen Waters' Illusionism class.
Oh, absolutely.
That was really good.
She to this day, I'm applying the basic techniques I learned in her class, and I'm sure if you have the opportunity to take a course with her, you guys should. I know she still teaches here, but I'm still thinking, how do I make this look more real? How do I make that look more shiny? How do I make that look more metallic? And these are basic illusionism ideas that she was discussing when I was a student. So even though I start off in the production world, they start off doing things in watercolor and painting and pencil, and now I'm moving much more to digital painting realm. I'm still thinking, if I put that dark right next to that light, it's gonna pop. And so there's a very basic elements that I'm still using, but it's very particular to what I do, because I'm still an illustrator. I'm still creating a visual. So I don't know how it is for you guys in the 3D moving graphics world, but that's...
No, I mean, I would echo that, because I feel like MICA gives you a really great, like, drawing, painting, traditional fine arts experience and education. And, I see designers on jobs, and they're not really talented with their hands sometimes, and I'm always like, wow, that would look so much better if someone who actually knew how to draw was designing that, because it just comes through when you have those foundation skills, I think. So I think those are always a good thing to have.
I think that in the business too, every once in a while you have to, whether you like it or not, you have to step aside and take a course. I've had to do that, and I took a course that I never ended up using, but it was asked of me, and I had to use it one time, and I had to learn it, and it was Rhino, and I hate it. There's nothing about it that I enjoy, but I needed to learn it, and it got me a job. But I literally had to say, you know what, enough. I've been asked if I know how to use it so many times that I had to take a course. So sometimes you just do have to stand up and do something completely different, take a course and figure it out.
I can't speak to the software part, because I'm like the worst. I like really could use like a Photoshop course, which somehow I like got around doing here. I don't know, but anyway, so I was just telling, I think I was telling you, Brian, this. So I was GFA here, which gets like such a bad reputation, and I don't like it because I think that's what I loved about my experience at MICA was like I think I was like struggling when I was here because I was like, I don't know what I want to do, and that's why I was GFA, because I got to like experiment in all these different things. And I think right now with what I'm doing and the people that I work with, my favorite people that I work with, no matter if they're like behind the camera or if they're like our sound person or if they're like someone I'm writing with, it's that they're multidisciplinary. Is that the right? They like aren't just that. They have like multiple skills, and you guys have talked a little bit about that too. But it's like getting to take like a wide variety of stuff here is really important. So yeah, you obviously should be like technically skilled if you're gonna go into animation and go into, you know, video game stuff, obviously. But it's just, I think it's really important to be like well-rounded in that too, and not get so tunnel vision with the skill sets, because if you're an animator that like composes music or something too, like how unique is that, and how different does your brain work than every other person that just focuses on animation? That's a weird example. I don't know anybody that does that, but
yeah, you don't need to. I'm with you on that. Like, you just need to know how to visually communicate an idea, and like going about it in one way or another way, as long as it's effective communication. It's important. And like having a camera in your hand or like a virtual camera, and thinking about how you use a camera and the person on the other side of the video watching it is going to react to that, like what you're trying to get across to the audience. And that's all that's really important, like not learning about new technical stuff, because hopefully you'll be in a place where someone else can do that for you. You know, you'll have someone that could edit it for you because they believe in your creative vision and your communication. And yeah, GFA, kind of bad rap. Guys like
bad news, and it shouldn't. Here to turn it around tonight.
That's amazing.
Guys.
It still has that.
Tonight.
It still has that rap? Really? Tonight.
Well, what does it stand for? Do you guys have a joke about what it stands for?
I bet all the other majors do.
Yeah, right.
I don't know what the
I remember
joke
what
is.
it was.
You know what it is?
I don't want to know what it is.
I'll tell you at Mount Royal Tavern.
All right.
I think it got worse. I don't know. Because I think animation and video broke off as their own majors, and you used to get some really interesting collaboration. I was GFA also, and if I wasn't, I ended up getting I was GFA with video and experimental animation concentrations, and you just couldn't do that in any other major, and that directly led to me being in video games, because I could take the classes I wanted to, like the drawing class, which is $1, and 3D animation class, and I think we had screenwriting or playwriting together. Yeah, I think we were in
I took that.
That was awesome. That
Love
was great
that.
class. I'm sorry. I forgot where I was going with that.
So is there less like cross pollination between like someone working in a video media or versus like painting or sculpture? Is there like less of those two things together? Yes.
Yeah, there's definitely a divide, like between the majors. Absolutely. I mean, unless if you're someone, like I'm very involved on campus and things like that, so like I'm talking to a lot of different people from a wide spectrum, but like if I didn't have that, I could easily see how it would like fall through the cracks. And that's like sad.
I think especially with illustration, because so much of the school is the illustration major now, like no one socializes with, like people like barely even socialize with people outside of the illustration major unless they're like already friends or something.
Got it. So like fine artistry, like it's different. It's like a click or a new sorts of
I think also
pockets.
because the way the thesis works, like especially like this year, I've noticed that all the fine arts majors have their thesis together in like a big group on Monday, and illustration, and I know some of the other majors have like their own pieces and illustrations. It's just like there's a different class each day of the week. So I think it's sort of like there's like less of a sense of community and there is within the fine arts majors in general.
Got it.
Well,
Yeah.
you got a couple months to. Are you a junior or senior?
I see.
You have a couple of weeks to change it around because make some friends. Because we, at least in the film world, we're constantly reaching out to artists, and they're constantly trying to put the next big artist in their films at a lower rate or whatever. And there's this constant reach out to the fine art community to try to bring it into the corporate of the film industry, because it is a giant corporation. I would clump them all together. If it's a studio you've heard of, they're all in the same kind of big bowl of whatever it is out there in LA, and everyone is in the same. Since it's all unionized, they take 4 people from this project, 4 people from that project, and 4 from there, and then they make a new project, and then that project is a huge success, and then they take 4. They just keep dividing and spreading it out. So you never know when you're going to really want to tap into these other resources and what you're going to learn from them. So it's and some are really too late. You might literally make a friend in the next 2 weeks, and 4 years from now you're like, Facebook, and go hunt them down and you'll find them. Any other questions?
I feel funny asking because I walked in late. I don't know if you guys already talked about it, but at this age, did you guys know what your dream job would be? Or you just kind of knew the path and like scragged your way there?
Wow.
In some way?
It just keeps changing. It does, because you accomplish one thing and then you're like, oh wait, now I want to do this. It just narrows down further and further and further as you go, and if you're lucky, you get to do that, I guess.
Do you mean like when we were like seniors?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
when you were a month from graduation, what did you envision as your dream job?
I will say, it's kind of close to what I'm doing now, but like I would didn't know how I would do it. How I didn't have like a plan, and I think that's like good, because sometimes I think if you plan it all out, it like can't ever happen that way. But yeah, I would say I'm a pretty positive person about career goals. I think that's an important thing, to be positive.
And dedication. I think the people who just don't have the dedication and the patience to wait for things to kind of happen for them kind of drop out really quickly. And you'll see that within a year of your graduation. The people who are still drawing a year after you graduate. But if you know that, like for me, I didn't know what I was going to do. I had no idea. The film world was not even a bleep in the radar. But I just knew I wanted to draw and make money off of it somehow. And I kind of stuck to it. So I think that if you just kind of say this is the general idea and you kind of just stay focused and the general goal is this, and you kind of move towards that general direction, it kind of does solidify somehow and become something, whether you have something specific or not. That's, I mean, it'll always be what you envision, but you'll kind of get there in this weird windy road of life, I guess. Try to wrap that up with something.
I thought I was going to graduate and just illustrate kids' books or something, but I fell into animation and doing graphics, and that sort of like lit a whole new, fire inside, I guess, for me, and it was fun. So yeah, I kind of, I don't know. Did you always want to work at MICA?
I was looking through some of my old sketchbooks, like from MICA a couple of years ago, and I saw like something. It said like, I drew SpongeBob and work at Nick ? And that happened, and that's like awesome. But I think like leaving, it's like I just wanted to do my own work and get paid to do it, and like tell a story that people wanted to hear. And like as I went on with that, I realized I just didn't want to waste anyone's time with my stories. Like I didn't want to make a story that like nobody wanted to see, because that would be pointless for me and for them. So I kind of switched gears and went away from personal work and went to corporate work, and like dove into that specifically, but kept working on personal work throughout. And, you know, I'm in positions where I can pitch my personal work for possible, you know, series or pilots or pickups for things like that. So, you know, it's just figuring out what you want to do and what you're going to be happy doing, like, every day. So
That's hard to know, though, I feel like.
it could be, yeah. I mean, it's just like sometimes, you know, like you guys all draw, and like sometimes you're probably just wasting paper drawing because you just can't stop drawing, right? You're just like drawing something ridiculous over and over again. And I have pages of that in my house, but it doesn't matter. I mean, you're just drawing, and like eventually it kind of like clicks, right? You're just like, oh yeah, I did want to do that, and I've done it, and now I'm happy with it or something. So just keep doing the thing you like to do, and if you're lucky, you'll get paid to do it.
Do you feel like you don't know what you want to do right now?
I feel like I want to do everything. So it's hard. I mean, it's good hearing you guys saying it's important to keep your interests general and your skills to broaden them as much as you can. But it's hard for me to specialize into one thing.
You don't have to. You could be a
Yeah.
generalist.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not like particularly good at anything, to be honest with you. I'm just good at organizing a bunch of talented people and then having them make something awesome, and like, you know, saying like this is our work as a team, and like just getting it out there and getting people to see it. You know, like pretty much everybody I work with is better than me at something, and that's just how it is. So you could do everything. You just have to know how to be a collaborator.
I think the goal is to work with only people that are more talented than you.
Yeah.
I would hate to work with people that just sucked. Right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
want to surround yourself with people that are that you think are better.
Totally.
That's the goal.
And it
Right.
happens, like, you know, you gotta, like, you bring people in, and
Yeah.
it's like terrible, and
Could be the worst.
you know,
Gotta do everything.
yeah. But like then you get people that are awesome, and like you just want them around all the time, right? Because they're fun to work with and they make cool work, and it's like everybody's project. You like pretty much in like the commercial world, like lose ownership of your thing. It's not your thing, it's someone else's thing, or it's all your things, or it's like the audience's thing. So it's just, you know, working with a lot of people and trying to make it best as you can.
I would
Last
say.
question,
Oh, sorry.
Tom, did you have another question?
Anyone else have a question before I ask? I was gonna ask who are your heroes. You guys have heroes when you were growing up that you looked up to, that you wanted to emulate.
I don't have a hero. I just have one artist, J.C. Lineberger, that just makes me cry every time I see his work.
Oh wow, yeah. He's
And
good.
I'm not gonna say it's a J.C. Lineberger.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Illustrator?
absolutely.
Yeah. He's not. He's not. And I didn't even really know who he was till Jose introduced me to him as an illustration student of his. But to this day, I'm like, J.C. Lineberger. Should we look at some of his stuff? Should we try to do something?
Keith Haring, Tim Burton. Who else? I mean, Matt Groening, definitely. Anybody like that who has gotten out and like been able to create little worlds, you know, imaginary worlds, whether it's film or animation or whatever. Those people have always, you know, been very inspiring.
Yeah, Matt Parker and Trey Stone are pretty like amazing to me, that they're just so talented and like really simple, you know, and like what they make is very complex, and they go about it in a simple manner, and like everything they do is just about their writing and their tone and execution.
Are you talking about the South Park guys?
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't hear it first, sorry.
Yeah. And they kind of like reinvented the way the production was for their shows so that it could match like calendars and budgets and still look the same, but even be better and like fit what they needed. And then, you know, they're moving on to movies and plays and all that stuff. And it's like paper cutouts, you know, stop motion.
Have you seen what their latest tool is? The Unreal video game engine? They're animating in a video game engine now. Show their.
It's awesome.
It's real time. Anyway.
Wow.
Like,
Wow.
Abby, what was yours? What were you looking up to when you were a young
I was
lady?
a huge Gilda Radner fan. I would say like as the one lone lady sitting up here, I would say like the female comedians that came before me are probably my big go-tos because it's important for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What advice would you guys give for students who want to incorporate more traditional means of creating stuff for film? Because even myself, I've met many artists who are animators and illustrators whose heroes are like the 9 Men in Disney and many other talented animators who work in traditional means of making films. And I feel like a lot of us are really scared to be able to develop. It's such a growing economy because we have a lot of incoming technology to make things even better, to show even greater ideas. And how in the world could we actually be able to create our dreams, be able to showcase more traditional ways of doing stuff?
Do you mean traditional? Do you mean like traditional hand cell drawn animation, or do you mean traditional as in when you do an illustration using a traditional medium?
A little bit of both.
I mean, from my experience, my experience with that specific question is they're always going to want the latest and greatest, but sometimes it's not the most efficient way to get the results that they want. So you have to convince them a little bit that, you know what, if I just did it this way, it can have a little bit more life to it, and it won't be as it won't take as long, and you're not as confined to the perfection of an image or like the perfection of the computer. Sometimes if you rush a 3D modeling job, it looks really stiff and chopped up and really flat. But if you do something in a more traditional medium, it just has that life to it. It's a little bit more imperfect, but your brain kind of allows for that imperfectness to exist. It kind of excuses it subconsciously. I think so. You just kind of have to mold your way through the field of technology to say, hey, listen, we have this little idea that might just hit the nail on the head, and why don't you give it a shot? I mean, it's a rough road to climb. I'm constantly battling it every day because every job I'm being offered, it's, you know, do you do 3D modeling? Do you do Rhino? Do you can you make it look exactly like we're going to get on set? Because they want to go to you and they want you to push one button, and they want you to create a world, an image, and everything that moves, that has music, whatever. These producers, some of these producers are crazy, and the things they will ask you to do, it's like, you do realize for it to get there, we need a whole team of people, right? So I think you just have to stay true to what you believe in, and this vision that you have, and this medium that that you love, and just kind of learn the technology and kind of keep trying things out. It's hard sometimes because when you're in the professional world, there's not a lot of room with deadlines to experiment. But every once in a while, I call it kind of slacking off. I'm not necessarily focused on getting to the end result, but I'm kind of trying to figure out how do you do the same thing but differently in a way I've never done it before. And it seems like that's what you might find yourself doing is experimenting. And whenever you can experiment on somebody else's dollar, it's always the best. But it's very, very, it's very, very rare to come by that. There's very little room for that, I find. I don't know if that answered your question efficiently.
It's
but
become very persuasive. So if you want to do something all cell, hand-drawn, you can persuade people to do it, that way.
Well, I think that's where like knowing multiple skills really comes into play. It's like if you know how to do it in a digital forum, and then you present it to them, and you say, well, you also know how to do this using a more traditional medium. Do you trust me to get it done? Like, do you want to give it a shot? Let's give this a try. And if that person says, this is a good job with the digital version, let's see what you can do with a more traditional version of it, and that might give you that, the inside confidence of that designer, whoever you're working for, to give you the opportunity to do it. I mean, that really has worked for me. I take a job on as a digital illustrator, and I'm doing these painted illustrations for a job, and then the same designer will rehire me on the next job, and I say, if you have no money, no time, but you want to do concepts for 12 sets, why don't we just do it all by hand? I'll quickly, throw some color on the computer, and we can do an illustration a day that way. It's going to be rough, it's going to be sketchy, but you're going to get the sense of what this world is about.
I'm not like too informed on animation, traditional versus the new techniques, but I mean I like to think that because everything is so advanced technology, that the stuff you're doing sort of makes it more unique and special. It's almost, I keep thinking it's almost like how a book publisher now can just do it on the iPad, just read the book on the iPad, but it's not the same as holding a book and experiencing it that way. I don't know, if you can understand that metaphor there. I think that there must still be a place in that world for what you're doing, because it holds in it a more craftsman kind of quality from my outsider point of view. Yeah.
What was the question exactly? Do you want to do more advanced technology stuff or traditional stuff?
Are there any companies that still profess on doing hand-drawn animated films?
Oh, I see.
Is it a dying art, I guess I would say? Do you think it's dead?
Not in Korea and India and everything. That's where it goes. Brooklyn, down south, some bit of LA.
Mm-hmm.
There's all that drawing, art schools all across America. But it's just the choice of the people in charge, or if you're convincing, like you said. If you could convince someone to do it this way, then you could do it this way, or you could film miniatures, or just draw stick figures or whatever. You could do anything really. If you got a good idea, you could convince people of it, and if it fits what they need commercially.
I mean, if you maybe also learned to do 3D or After Effects, 2D, other methods, and that way you always have the traditional, because you learned it. It'll always be in your arsenal. But just in case there's not as many jobs in that, you can also rely on something else, because I mean, just to be honest, I have worked with a lot of traditional 2D animators that do have a hard time finding work. So, unless new shows come out that showcase that style, where they need teams of people to do it, the work may not be there.
And
so
I don't know any
there is that reality.
2D drawing animator that doesn't know After Effects.
Yeah.
So they seem to go hand in hand.
But that way, you always have that traditional skill in your arsenal. If a show comes up and you're like, oh my God, that's perfectly the style I would love to work in, or I would like to do something like that, you have it in your arsenal of things to do.